In the heart of the vast Persian Empire, there was an influential king named Xerxes. One day, during one of his many luxurious banquets, he commanded that his queen, Vashti, be brought before the guests to display her beauty. But she refused to come. The king, furious and unwilling to tolerate anyone who opposed him, followed the advice of his wise men and removed her from her royal position. The empty crown opened the way for the search for a new queen. Many young women were brought to the palace. The order was clear: only the most beautiful women should be chosen. Among them, one stood out. Her name was Esther, an orphan girl raised by her cousin Mordecai. She was gentle and humble. She did not wear expensive jewelry or striking makeup. She possessed a natural beauty that captivated everyone who saw her, and the king, amazed, chose her to become queen. However, she carried a secret. She was Jewish. Following the guidance of Mordecai, the older cousin who had raised her since childhood, she told no one. In the palace, there was a wicked man named Haman. He was the king's second in command. Everyone bowed before him. Everyone except Mordecai. This enraged him, and his wounded pride turned into hatred against all the Jewish people. Haman maliciously persuaded the king to issue a cruel decree. On a single day, all the Jews of the kingdom were to be destroyed. When Mordecai learned about this, he was devastated. Immediately, he sent word to Esther in secret, for the queen needed to go before the king and plead for mercy for her people. But there was a problem. There was a law in the palace. No one could approach the king without being summoned. Anyone who did so would be put to death, and Esther had not been called for 30 days. Mordecai insisted with words that changed everything.
Do not think that because you are in the palace you will escape, and who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this.
Esther understood. She asked all the Jews to fast for 3 days.
I will go to the king. If I perish, I perish.
Her strength came from her faith. On the 3rd day, Esther put on her royal robes and went to the king's courtyard. When he saw her, he extended his golden scepter, a sign that she was allowed to approach. But Esther was wise and chose not to make her request immediately. Instead, she invited the king and Haman to a banquet. During the banquet, the king asked what she desired. She replied,
"Come tomorrow to another banquet, and then I will answer."
Haman left the first banquet filled with pride, but when he saw Mordecai, his anger returned. He built a large gallows to hang him. That night, however, the king could not sleep. He ordered the royal records to be read and discovered that Mordecai had once saved his life from an assassination plot, but had never been rewarded. The next day, Haman arrived at the palace intending to ask for Mordecai's execution, but the king asked him a strange question.
What should be done for the man the king delights to honor?
Thinking the king meant him, Haman suggested grand and extravagant honors. To his horror, the king ordered him to carry out those honors for Mordecai. At the second banquet, the king once again asked Esther what her request was. Then she spoke boldly.
If the king favors me, spare my life and the life of my people, for we have been sold to be destroyed.
The king, shocked, asked who would dare to do such a thing. Esther pointed and said,
"The enemy is Haman."
Haman was terrified. The king, deeply disturbed, went out into the palace garden. When he returned, he saw Haman fallen over Esther, begging for his life. Interpreting this as an attack against the queen, the king ordered that Haman be taken away. And on the very gallows he had prepared for Mordecai, Haman was executed. The king gave Esther the house of Haman and appointed Mordecai to his place of honor. But the decree against the Jews was still valid. Esther pleaded with the king in tears, and moved with compassion, he allowed the Jews to defend themselves. On the day that had been set for their destruction, the Jewish people rose up and fought for their lives, and they prevailed. Joy and celebration spread throughout the kingdom. Even today, the Jewish people celebrate this victory during the annual festival of Purim, remembering how their ancestor Esther risked her life to save her people. Esther, the young orphan who became queen, understood something profound: how to hear the voice of God even when everything seems lost. She realized that it was no coincidence that she had been placed in such an important position. Sometimes we are exactly where we are meant to be, not by accident, but by purpose. Esther shows us that fear should not have the final say. Faith can change the destiny of many as long as we believe in the omnipotence and justice of God.